This program has action sequences containing violence. Parental discretion advised.
Greetings, boils and ghouls and cryptids of undiscernible genders. My name is GloKat, but you can call me Audrey because we're friends. And with me, I have Skunkrocker.
Hi, how are you?
And
I'm doing well.
And we are here today to bring you Scrubcast. Yeah, it's a Scrubhaus Video Club podcast. And we're back.
Technically, this is we're back for the first time.
Back again for the first time. And we have a new format. So,
yeah, because if you haven't heard the original format, that's because you weren't here when we recorded those episodes, and they were all garbage, and we hated them. And now we're doing something new.
Well, the other one was fine, but anyway,
yeah,
we've always been first and foremost a video club, and we haven't been acting like it. So what we're doing now is we have a monthly movie, if you will. And in that situation, we tell you this is what we're watching for next month. And then whatever the next month comes up, we'll discuss it. Of course, we're not always going to stay on topic. It's fucking Audrey and Skunkrocker. We're going to ramble. We're going to go on about different things. But whatever it comes down to it, we're all tied together with a little bit of a glue. But kind of like that glue from Post-it notes, so not too close.
It doesn't adhere very well.
And if the desk is dirty, then Post-it just keeps falling down. Regardless. Today we're here to talk about 1990s American horror anthology film Tales from the Darkside, the movie.
Yeah, so this is, of course, loosely, and emphasis on loosely, based off of the television series Tales from the Darkside, which ran from, 1983. Well, 1984 actually to 1988. The pilot was 1983. It was a anthology horror series, similar to Twilight Zone or Tales from the Crypt.
But prior to Tales from the Crypt.
This one was created by George A. Romero. As many people would know George Romero from Creepshow, as well as other things. It was another anthology series of films that he did, Creepshow and Creepshow 2, leading this movie to be unofficially known as Creepshow 3. And not the actual Creepshow 3 that was released in 2006 that made us all hate ourselves.
Yeah, immensely. Creepshow 3. Let's not even get into that topic. That's not Scrubhaus worthy. That's trash compactor worthy. But
it goes in the crap section. It's the dumpster.
The thing about the whole Creepshow 3 thing when dealing with Tales from the Darkside, it seems kind of weird. It seems kind of forced in that situation. I think that people are attributing the idea of the movie to being Creepshow-esque just because George Romero wrote a good bit of it. And there is, of course, a Stephen King story. But it was actually directed by John Harrison. And John Harrison has a strange career. Very, very strange career. He went from doing Tales from the Darkside, the movie, to being the co-writer for freaking Disney's Dinosaur. And most recently, he actually directed part of an episode of the new Creepshow series. So, yeah, a very interesting fellow, very interesting movie, and I say we get into it. Do you want to start talking about Lot 249?
I think we have to start with the wraparound story first, which is literally, in the credits, by the way, it's literally called The Wraparound Story. Actually, he gave it that name. I thought that was funny. Rather than giving it a unique name. This film, of course, very similar to Creepshow, has a story that connects all of the other stories together. In it, We have this suburban housewife who's getting ready for her day. She's going to be cooking dinner. She's planning a dinner party and everything, and it's Debbie Harry.
Debbie fucking Harry. Like, I don't know. She was very, very good in this role. I'll say that. Debbie Harry's actually just a damn good actress. She's been in a couple of movies, and yeah, I mean, I enjoy the ones that I've seen her in. So
yeah, I don't know if I've seen her in a bad role, but I digress. Turns out she's actually a modern day witch, which it means that in this particular world, it's not, you bed knobs and broomsticks or Harry Potter or anything like that. It means she's a cannibal and she eats children. And she has this little boy named Timmy who's locked up in a cage in her kitchen, and she keeps him on a diet of cookies. She being nice though, because she's like, she doesn't just want this kid to sit there and like eat cookies and not do anything else. He's going to get bored out of his mind. So she gave him a book. Who is Timmy?
Who is Timmy played by?
I'm getting to that. She gives him the book. The book is Tales from the Darkside. So there's the name of the movie. Roll credits. Timmy is played by Matthew Lawrence.
Sam fucking Collins from Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad. Because that's where my brain goes, and I'm the only person on the planet who still talks about Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad.
No, I always just think about he was he was in Boy Meets World. He was Jack.
Yeah, yeah. He was in.
He was a bunch of other stuff too. He was in Mrs. Doubtfire. His brother Joey Lawrence is obviously more famous. And nowadays he just looks like Dexter, but he's not Dexter, so that's just weird.
Yeah, it's a little weird.
But now we get into the first story, Lot 249. Starting off with immediately we already get the many actors in this that are major names. You can see where people, can look at this and be like, yeah, it was supposed to be Creepshow 3, because this is pretty much an all-star cast. Because right off the bat, Debbie Harry and Matthew Lawrence. In our first story, we get Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore,
in her first appearance. This is Julianne Moore's first major appearance in a motion picture.
And Christian Slater. We get Christian Slater as well.
Christian Slater being very, very, very Christian Slater.
We also get a guy, Robert Sedgwick, who is not. He's not really a major actor. He's not a major actor who's huge. He's got a bunch of roles in a bunch of different things, but he's one of those B-movie actors or like background actors that appears in things. Like
he's a TV actor.
He was in Die Hard with a Vengeance. He voiced the Smileys in Manhunt, the video game.
Whoa, that's weird. That all right. All of them?
Yeah. Smiley number 3 specifically.
Okay, I was about to be like,
he's one of the voices of the Smileys. But that's happened before. Like all of the ghouls in Fallout are all voiced by the same guy, unless they're a unique character, like Hancock.
Yeah, I guess that's right. Still, I mean, that's like
they all sound like this. It's just some guy pushing out his vocal cords, so his voice comes out all gravelly like this. It's not a good day being a ghoul.
Is that an actual ghoul from the Fallout series? Wow. Yeah,
that's how you do the ghoul voice. You gotta. It's also how apparently that's also how Christopher Titus does the voice of his alter ego, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head. Willie Titus, who is supposedly a black guy. That's how he does the voice. He does like this, like squeezes on the vocal cords. So apparently it makes his voice go down lower. It's really neat. He actually did that impression for so long that people thought Willie was a different person. So what we have here is it's very, very similar to a Creepshow story, but without what makes the Creepshow stories Creepshow. You know what I mean?
I don't think it feels like a Creepshow story. Like not to me at all. It felt like just another horror story. And let's just give a quick synopsis. This one can be wrapped up really easy. We got Steve Buscemi's character Bellingham gets cheated out of some kind of major scholarship thing.
Yeah, it's a scholarship they were competing for.
Yeah, by the meathead that's played by Robert Sedgwick. His name was Lee.
Yes.
And Lee is dating Andy, who was played by Christian Slater's sister, Susan, played by Julianne Moore.
I thought you said he was dating Andy, and I was going to be like, whoa, this film isn't that progressive. Come on.
No, but Andy seems kind of like a friend-ish to Steve Buscemi. Like, they live in the same dorm. And anyway, Steve Buscemi gets a mummy.
The titular Lot 249.
And he gets a scroll out of the mummy's guts. They keep saying he smells like rotten flowers. That was one thing that I kept hearing. But you get a scroll out of his guts, brings the mummy to life to extract revenge on Lee and on Susan, because Susan claimed that he stole a Zuni fetish, which completely makes me think of the Trilogy of Terror, which is something we might get into at some point. That is another whole completely different anthology film. But yeah, that Zuni fetish doll. That's like, I think it's borderline racist at this point. I don't think we should ever watch that movie, but
it is absolutely incredibly racist because it's a real tribe of people. If they invented a fake tribe of people like they did in Cannibal Holocaust, or like what was it? The Green Fire?
Inferno.
Green Inferno.
Never watched it.
I've never seen it either, but I'm pretty sure, because it's basically just Cannibal Holocaust all over again. If you invent a fake tribe of people who all happen to be feral savages or something, that's cool. You're not making fun of, you're not poking fun at like real people. The Zunis were real people. Come on.
So here's the thing that I'm going to say. Here at Scrubhaus, we don't enjoy cannibal films, but we still like you if you do. They're just not for us.
I just think it's not about cannibal films. This is a cannibal film that we like. It's got a cannibal in it. We just don't like
the tribal cannibal films, like Cannibal Ferox, Cannibal Holocaust, things like that. Like, that's not my wheelhouse. They're just shocking things. Yeah, but anyway,
they're just crap movies, is what they are.
We digress. Whenever it comes to it, gets the mummy and has it exact revenge on Lee and Susan by killing them mummy style.
So this is what I mean when I talk about this film being like this segment does feel like they were trying to go for something Creepshow, right? The story itself is an adaptation of an Arthur Conan Doyle story. And pretty much the same stuff happens in the story, except obviously in the story it's a lot longer. It goes into a whole bunch of weird shit in the long story, or the short story, the longer version of the story that Doyle wrote. But it hits a lot of the same beats that a Creepshow story does. You know, we have revenge, we have something coming back from the dead, we have people who are being killed by this thing because they're bad people.
But you know what it doesn't have?
The humor.
The comic book feel.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that I think that Creepshow 3, which I hate to harp on this, but Creepshow 3 had the same problem. Like, people want to compare this to Creepshow, and I get why they compare it to Creepshow. Don't get me wrong, but this specific part is lacking that comic book flair, that thing that tied everything together.
If they had added it, I mean, they would only have to add in a couple of things to really make it work. Just some weird lighting, some good music stings, those awesome matte colored backgrounds,
those colored freeze frame things that they like to do.
That's what I was talking about.
Yeah, like those things, it could have made it work, specifically in the death scenes in this, which I found a little bit weak. There's only technically 2 of them, and one of them you don't really see; it's implied, and the other one is literally stab someone in the back and shove some flowers into the wound. And it's like
they're both very weak.
They could have stopped in those moments and did like this the Creepshow like splash, like where it was just like the art with the colors and whatnot. And I think that could have made it really Creepshowish, but it really just felt like a horror story to me, just a standard horror story, which makes sense. It's written by Arthur Conan Doyle. Like, it's fine. It wasn't my favorite part.
No, I think everybody who knows this movie is going to know what our favorite part is.
I mean, whenever it comes down to it, I don't want to rate them individually because I think that's wrong to do. But I will say it's good. I enjoy it. I fucking love Steve Buscemi and Christian Slater acting against each other, and we need more of that. The whole ending scene with Christian Slater and the electric carving knife against the mummy is great. Seeing him go full Christian Slater, like ties him to a chair, pours his master thesis around him, right? Because it's a bunch of loose papers, rips up some pieces, sprays him down with lighter fluid. And Steve Buscemi is like, "What are you doing? That's my master thesis." And hearing Christian Slater say, "I'm going to roast some little nuts," in that Christian Slater voice was just, it's perfect. Perfect Christian Slater being Christian Slater.
Yeah, it was very weird. And the whole entire time, he's just like got a big smile on his face. Like you could tell it's just Christian Slater being Christian Slater, right? It would have been so much better if Andy had fucking snapped and was just like, at that point, he was just like, "Nope, everything must burn. You must burn. Everything must burn. The fire makes everything clean. The fire brings truth." If it had done that, A, it would have felt a lot more fucking Creepshow, and B, it also would have made sense for Christian Slater to be grinning like a fucking idiot the entire time.
That would throw away the sting at the end, though.
Yeah, and that's just, of course, it's one of those stories. It's one of those movies. At the end of it, Christian Slater decides not to kill Bellingham, which is Buscemi's character, and lets him go after he destroys the reanimation scroll. But turns out Bellingham still had it. He actually switched it out with another one.
With a scroll that was Alexandrian pictographic porn, in his own words.
Yeah, meanwhile, by the way, I want to point out, Bellingham at this point is escaping. He's like, "You'll never see me again." And Andy's like, "Yeah, I better not." And then he gets into a car being driven by some fucking skinhead. And it's just like this punk mobile, and he's in the back reading out these words and laughing hysterically, and the driver's just like, "What are you laughing at?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm just thinking about a friend of mine who can't tell the difference between an Egyptian reanimation parchment and Alexandrian porno."
Yeah, it's great.
And the driver is just like, "Whatever, dude, you're a fucking weirdo." Which,
and he is. He definitely is.
Steve Buscemi.
It's Steve Buscemi in a very good role. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be full of spoilers. It's an anthology series, so he reincarnates both Lee,
Lee and Susan
as mummies because they were killed mummy style.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. Yeah, we mentioned that Susan gets the flower stuffed into her back, but we don't mention that Lee gets his brains removed with a
coat
hook.
hanger. It was a coat hanger.
It was a coat hanger, but it's shaped into a hook.
We see the mummy shape a coat hanger into a hook and bring it towards his nose, and then later we see his brain.
We see the blood on the floor.
Yeah.
But other than that,
one of my favorite little things in this, I brought it up whenever we were watching it, but was the fact that the mummy had 4 fingers, like the ring finger was gone the entire time. Yes. And there's a shot where you see like blood from where the mummy had killed Lee, and there was like a handprint on the fridge of just the 4 fingers, and that actually ended up being used for a comedic reason because Christian Slater ends up snapping off the pointer finger and the pinky and throws it in Steve Buscemi's lap whenever he was tied to the chair, saying they'd make awesome kindling. And then Mummy comes alive, cuts his arm off with the the electric knife, and he holds it up, and the mummy hand is flipping everyone off because all he has is his middle finger and his thumb. I thought that was
a great moment. Yeah. Another great moment, and this for me, it's something that you see. It happens in everything. It's happened in The Evil Dead. It's happened in things like Child's Play and stuff like that. It's such a dumb trope, but I love the trope anyway. The spell was written in ancient Egyptian, and he actually says what kind of Egyptian it is. He's like Third Kingdom, twice removed, or some shit, right? So super ancient Egyptian. But he reads it out in English. That's how you cast the spell. You have to read it.
Nap, open tat, open his eyes.
Yeah. Sounds a lot more like the fucking spell you cast at the beginning of Star Tropics 2 to go back in time.
All right. So, yeah, anyway, whenever it comes down to it, lot 249, pretty fun, pretty great. But overall, not my favorite part. Let's move on to, well, let's say there's a little bit of a wraparound story, right? After this. So Debbie Harry is in the kitchen talking about needing to like gut and clean Timmy to cook him. And somehow this kid with his ultimate powers is just able over and over again, mind you, to convince Debbie Harry to make sure that he is undercooked for the party so that he can just continue to read her stories.
Well, so here's the deal with that. He reads the story, right? And he finishes up. She's like, man, that was a good story, but it really wasn't one of the scary ones. And he's just like, oh, you want to hear a scary story? Let me find the scariest story in the book. And she's like, I really have to cook you now. And he's like, no, listen, this one's going to be good. Right.
Oh, yeah, because he was like, it was so scary, I had to stop reading it twice.
Yeah, and he keeps convincing her to let him keep reading, right? Until at the very end, right? At that point, she's just all like, okay, like you have to stop now. Like you really do, because it's, at this point, the timer has gone off. I have to cook you now, right? So we'll keeps convincing. Yeah, we'll get to that, but he keeps convincing her to let him keep reading stories to her. So you don't, at the very beginning of the movie when they do lot 249, you don't realize he's reading this to her.
Yeah,
it's only when you get to the next story that you realize he's been sitting here for 15 minutes reading the story word for word as she sits there and like chops up fucking carrots.
Yeah, as she preps vegetables. That's crazy. But up next, we have Cat from Hell. Cat from Hell is the famous one because this was the one that was supposed to be in Creepshow 2, but wasn't.
And this is the one that feels the most Creepshow.
Absolutely.
It's the one that's actually written by Romero. The other two are written by Michael McDowell. Which,
You can't say it was written by Romero. It was adapted from a Stephen King short story by George Romero.
Yeah.
Written by Romero. I'm using air quotes here, but
to say that the story is adapted makes sense because it is an adapted version of a Stephen King story. Truth, right? But it's not the same. The version that's in the film is completely different from the short story. It has a lot of the same elements, but this has been made. It feels like Creepshow. It feels like they had a Creepshow script, and then they didn't put it in the movie, and then they made this movie, and Romero was just like, yeah, fuck it, I've got the script lying around. Let me call King up, make sure we can still use it. Oh, that's cool, sweet, let's do it. And it's the one that feels the most Creepshow. The things that people say, the lighting, the sets, it's definitely the Creepshow story.
I will also say I think the actors feel more Creepshow as well. Even though you had Steve Buscemi and Julianne Moore and Christian Slater in Lot 249, like you get William Hickey and David Johansen and Mark Margolis in this. Like they feel more like someone who would be in Creepshow if you think of just like, actors that have been in it. Like you got Ted Danson. And you had oh my goodness, Leslie Nielsen and things like that. Like these actors that were in more high class pictures whenever they were younger, but ended up into more schlocky things. That was more of a line for Creepshow. This is just starting people off in schlock and Lot 249. So I feel that the actors are more Creepshowish in Cat from Hell.
So you also have Michael McDowell was the other writer, and he has quite the he's got quite the list of both books and screenwriting credits that are pretty well known, and
absolutely
that he wrote
one of my favorite movies actually.
He did the screenplay for Beetlejuice.
Absolutely, yeah.
And he did the screenplay for, or he did the story for Nightmare Before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the screenplay was by somebody else, but he did the story. And he did the screenplay for Thinner with Tom Holland.
Which
he also wrote.
I think we might cover Thinner at some point. I think it's a slept-on Stephen King film.
Mm-hmm. I like it.
Yeah.
He also did the Clue movie novelization, which was famous for the fact that it has a hidden fourth ending in it.
Oh.
Yep.
I actually watched Clue with the other half whenever they were down. And we watched it on Amazon Prime, and it had all three endings. I thought that was pretty interesting.
When you watch, if you watch any home video or like streaming versions or anything like that, you get the 3 ending version of the film. On the on home media, like if you get like a DVD or Blu-ray or something, you actually have the option of being able to watch it the way that it was in the theater, in which when the lights go out near the end of the movie, you get one of the endings is just substituted in there, and you don't know which one it's going to be until you get to that moment.
That's cool. I wish more films did that. I just think it's a neat idea. I mean,
1408 did it.
And they tried to do something similar with one of the Final Destination films, like the Choose Your Fate thing from Final 3. Yeah, it was whatever. No, 1408 did it. Depending on which version of 1408 you see, and there's a million different versions of 1408. Like it even comes down to like what part of the world you're in. Like if you're in the UK or not, it can change what ending of 1408 you see. It was really weird. It was 3 people. We were in a basement watching 1408. Me and my buddy Ray and this girl that he lives with, Heather, who we're still not sure if they're dating. No, they're dating.
Are they finally dating?
Oh yeah, they're dating.
God damn. Because back then they weren't dating. I was just like, you need to marry this woman already because she loves you. It's very obvious.
She is very wonderful. She is a very wonderful, kind-hearted person.
She's great. Like, I didn't understand why he wasn't, whatever. Anyway,
But
it doesn't matter.
he is great as well. And he might be listening to this. So, Ray, we love you, buddy.
And I'm finally glad that you decided to get that. She was fucking just throwing it out there to you, and you just weren't. I don't know. Anyway, we're all watching the movie, and we get to the end of the film, and I'm just so confused. And Ray is confused as well. And we both just look at Heather, and we're like, that's not how the movie is supposed to end. Like, when I saw the movie, it had a completely different ending. And Ray was like, yeah, there was a completely different ending to this movie. And then I say my ending, and Ray's looking at me like I'm fucking crazy. And I look back at Ray, and he's like, that's not the ending that I saw. And then he explained his ending, and I'm like, wait, what? That's impossible. I didn't see that. And I started thinking, how is it possible that you have a Mandela effect that affects 3 different people? Like, that's 3 different people differently. Like, that's impossible. You know what I mean?
I like to call it the mandolin effect, just to piss people off, by the way.
So
continue.
We look it up, and it turns out that depending on how you watch 1408, you get a different ending. If you watch it on Netflix, if you watch it on basic cable, if you rent or buy the DVD, if you watch it on like Hulu, if you watch it on Amazon, even if you watch it on Netflix in the UK, that can change the ending. If you watched it in the theater, it's very weird. I love it because it made us all think we were going crazy, and that's what a Stephen King movie should do.
True that. Okay, we're half an hour in, bud. We got to hit the cat from hell. All right, we gotta talk about this fucking thing. So, do you want to explain the movie or this part of the movie? Or do you want me to explain this part of the movie?
We'll just take turns. It's rather simple to explain. So again, it's a Stephen King story with a cat, so you know how this is going to go down. The cat's going to be the best character in the film, or in the short story, and you're not going to care about any of the other characters. Fuck them. The cat is the best part.
No, but I do. I care about at least 2 other characters. I actually do care about at least 2 other characters in the situation. The cat is awesome. I like the cat because he's just being a cat. And that somehow makes it better. But if you're telling me that you don't care about David Johansen's character, Halston, goddamn New York Dolls, David Johansen in this movie, I don't know how he plays such a greasy hitman so perfectly, because we always see him as like a punker or a cabbie or something along those lines. But
that was the first thing I was going to say was Scrooged.
Well,
I was thinking of him as Mr. Christmas Pat. It's a phone!
But, I don't know how he cleans up to look so slimy. It's wonderful.
It kind of reminded, we were just talking about Clue. It reminded me of Leaving, because he plays Mr. Body, and you see him walk in, and you just watch this movie, and he's such the, yeah, everybody, I got you all presents. These are all weapons you can use to kill Wadsworth. And when the lights go out, he seems like such the, New York gangster fucking Bob douchebag. And when you find out that's the guy that wrote the songs, Let's Have a War and, Beer 30 and shit like that from the band Fear, this was a guy who just he was the guy that destroyed SNL one night with the help of the rest of his band, a bunch of slam dancers, and John Belushi, pissed off Lorne Michaels. This punker who's just turns out, nope, actually, really good actor and a really slimy New York guy. Who the fuck knew?
I mean, yeah, I could definitely see the parallel there. I'm a big fan of New York Dolls. I think they're great. It's good proto-punk. And whatever it comes down to it, seeing Johansson in any movie is pretty great. But seeing him in this movie specifically, it did something special for me.
Yeah, it just reminded me that I have a copy of Tapeheads over here. Jello Biafra plays a really good FBI agent in that movie.
It's weird how that shit happens. Like,
what is it with punkers just playing when they make movies, they play except for Henry Rollins. He plays exactly the person you would expect Henry Rollins to be.
okay, it's the same way whenever it comes to hardcore gangster rappers playing cops. Like Ice-T plays like the best cop.
Yeah.
Or like Ice Cube playing like a family man. Like people playing the exact opposite of what they are.
Ice Cube playing a cop.
Yeah,
21 Jump Street.
It works. Like it's crazy. But anyway, all right. So William Hickey is this Pfizer money motherfucker. He's a drug entrepreneur. Drogan.
Drogan, yeah, his name is Drogan.
I typed down dragon, and I was like, "That's not right." I would have remembered if his name was Dragon, but yeah, Drogan, and he's wheelchair bound, and he lives with his sister and this very annoying friend of his sister, and they're all old money,
and a butler.
And a butler who's played by Mark Margolis, Saul from Pi.
Well, I was gonna say he's Hector from Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
I want to point out, by the way, you said that he lives with these people. No,
they live with him. But
no, they don't live. It turns out that when Drogan is introduced as a character, there's the Halston, who's David Johansen's character, has shown up in a cab, and the cabbie he's like, "How much do I owe you?" He's like, "Dude, the guy inside is paying me, man. He's paying me a lot of money. So just go inside." And that's where he meets William Hickey's character, Drogan. Drogan explains he used to live with 3 other people. They've all been murdered by a cat. The cat is somewhere in the house, and he wants Halston to kill the cat. And Halston's like, are you serious? Like, I'm not gonna kill a cat. And Drogan's like, no, you gotta understand, this is the cat from hell. And then he proceeds to tell the story of how the cat murdered fucking everybody.
Mm-hmm. So it started with the sister's friend, or
it started with the butler. The butler's just sitting there, having a cigarette.
He found him, but that's not the first person who he killed.
No, that is the first person he kills.
No, because he kills him in the car. He gets killed last.
Does he get killed last? Because I thought he got killed first.
No, he gets killed last. It's like it's his sister. Okay, so his sister takes.
By the way, I just want to point out this real quick. Mark Margolis is seen in this movie twice, and that's it.
Yeah, so the first time we see him, he finds the cat, and he tries to shoo the cat away. And Drogan's sister takes a liking to the cat. And Drogan is like, the cat can either leave or it'll die here. And she's just like, you will not touch this cat. So Drogan lets her have the cat. And at some point, one day around midnight or something, the cat is trying to get her to go downstairs to get him a snack. So she's going down the stairs, and the cat trips her, and she falls down the stairs, breaks her neck. She dies.
Classic.
The friend, I don't remember how the cat killed the friend.
I don't either.
It was uneventful enough that I forgot how the cat killed the friend. But the cat kills the friend, and then, strangely enough, ends up in the car when the butler, Mark Margolis' character, is driving somewhere, and hops up right in front of the dash, whatever he's driving, and scares him, and he drives off the road and crashes the car, and the butler dies.
See, that was so uneventful. I don't remember that.
Yeah, so then the cat comes back the very next day. But the cat comes back to the house, and it's tormenting Drogan, and Drogan knows he's next. So he had hired Halston to kill the cat, and he leaves after telling the story.
Well, I was going to point out something real quick before he leaves, right? So he tells this entire story to Halston, and Halston's just sitting there just being like, yeah, you're a crazy old man. Obviously those were all accidents, and you're nuts. And during this time period, he starts talking to Drogon about why do you think a cat would be here to kill you? Drogon starts talking about this new drug that he came out with. This drug is apparently like the best thing ever.
It's like crack. It's like crank. It's like heroin.
It's
like,
super heroin.
Yeah.
It's super addictive, right? But the problem is that during the testing to see what the drug could possibly be used for, they killed 5,000 cats.
5,000 cats.
Drogon's sister was saying he did it on purpose because he hates cats. So apparently because you don't test drugs on cats. He literally did it just because he hates cats. So he's convinced the cat is there to kill him out of revenge. And at this moment, when he explains this, the cat jumps into Halston's lap. And Halston's just sitting there petting the cat, like listening to the story as dude starts to have a heart attack and like gets out his nitro pills to make sure that he doesn't die. And he takes the pill, and Halston's just all like, okay, do you want me to kill the cat now? Because the cat's like right here. And the cat, of course, hears him, scratches him on the hand, and he's now like, I'm going to kill this fucking cat. Like,
yeah, like that's what
not even, it's not the money. It's not Drogon's crazy story. It's nothing else. It's the cat scratched me. He's a dead motherfucker. Like, that's the thing that gets him motivated to kill this cat.
Oh my goodness. So,
Drogon says he's going to leave. He'll be back in 12 hours, and the cat had better be dead.
And what ensues is 8 glorious minutes of freaking David Johansen acting aside a cat and monologuing the entire time.
He opens up this briefcase of weapons and just starts taking them out one by one. Like, the first thing he pulls out is like a little mini expandable baton knife thing, sort of. But then he puts that down and pulls out a garrote wire.
But it's way too thick to be a garrote wire. Like that's one thing I remember specifically.
Yeah.
Like, it would bind. Like, you wouldn't want that. And
so he puts that down, and then I don't even remember what the last thing he pulls out is.
It was a tiny like 6-shooter like pistol.
He had a 2-shot Derringer, but he never pulls the 2-shot Derringer out of the thing, does he? He goes after the cat. Yeah. I guess his idea was that he was gonna do something to the cat, but I don't remember what item he pulls out to kill the cat with. And the cat, of course, attacks him, and he starts to lose his chill. He's starting to freak out. At one point, he's actually leaning up against an oven, and he goes, "Okay, Halston, you can't get hot." I'm like, you're standing right next to the oven when you say that. That had to have been on purpose.
It was some clever writing. That's what that was.
The next thing that he pulls out a needle and some like juice, and he puts the needle in the bottle, and he's like, this is like the stuff that they used to kill the cats, only 1,000 times more powerful.
It was,
and I'm sitting there thinking,
it was fucking heroin. Was what he was implying. Like that he was going to inject this cat with actual heroin.
Just straight up heroin.
It's crazy. Like, but it's him just talking and yelling at this cat, like, and then talking calmly to himself, trying to calm himself down, and then yelling at a cat again. Like, it's a good act. Like, he's acting very well in this movie. He's doing the best with what he has. That's what I'll say.
He tries to grab the cat again. He finds the cat. He tries to grab the cat again. He fucking misses. The cat fucking bites him on the neck. He drops the needle. The needle's gone. He can't find it now. And he's just, he's not in the mood anymore. He's like, okay. And he goes back over to his case to see what the next weapon he's going to pull out is. When he feels on his neck, because he's like, man, the cat got me deep. And then he pulls his hand back, and there's just a fuck ton of blood. And he pulls his jacket off to look, and his shirt is just covered in blood. in his blood, not the cat's, obviously. And he just is like, oh, this was $100 shirt. Now you're definitely going to die. He takes the top of the case apart, and underneath is a suppressed long slide 50 caliber Desert Eagle with a laser sight.
With a big boxy laser sight.
This gun is huge. This is the kind of thing that you would see at like, it kind of reminded me of something you would see in Terminator, like the 45 long slide. It's sort of like that, but it looked more like something that you would see in like a shitty 90s video game. Like,
yeah,
like it felt like the kind of gun you would see in like Sin. Like that was specifically the game I thought of, was like Sin. So he pulls this thing out. He sets up a bowl of cat food. And he waits for the cat next to the TV, by the way, because I guess he figured the TV would be making enough noise that the cat wouldn't notice him. So he's just sitting there waiting for the cat.
He's watching TV. Like I think he set it up that way so
he could watch the
something
TV
to do while he's waiting on the cat, because he knew it was going to take forever. Because he said, "There's one thing that I can do, and that's outwait you." So specifically, he was just trying to keep himself occupied. And that's why he set up the food like right in front of the TV. So he could see that if the cat hopped up there, it'd be blocking the television. He'd know it was there. It's right in his sight of vision.
So he pulls the gun out and he takes the laser sight and he aims it at the cat, and he's got it on the cat's head, and he pulls the trigger, and of course he misses and shoots the TV. And since he's using the laser sight, he's like, "That's impossible. I had a beat on you, you son of a bitch." And I'm like, dude, it's a laser sight. They're not that accurate.
But the implication is spirit of revenge ghost cat. Like,
yeah, that's the implication. My implication is you're a shitty shot and your fucking laser sight was not properly calibrated. Yeah. And they're not that accurate to begin with. So now he's just shooting up the house. This dude's got... He made the point of, like, this house has got really expensive shit in it, but at one point he's going around just being all like, this guy buys cheap booze. And then he opens up the fridge and he's like, everything you could ever want, huh? The fridge is empty. Like, it's obvious that this man is, like, very, very low means. Like there's nobody else living here. He doesn't need anything. He probably just eats like a bowl of cereal a day. Maybe not even that. He probably gets all of his nutrients from like an IV or something. Why would he think that this place is going to just be full of like, $1,000 booze and all of the food you could ever want? Like, what the fuck? So he's now destroying everything expensive in this house. Like, he shoots the fucking grandfather clock at one point.
Yeah, so that's a big thing. Because whenever he shoots the grandfather clock, it was like, at that moment, that's when the cat dove off of the grandfather clock. So that's a very specific thing, and it comes into play. Because what happens next, after he shoots that grandfather clock, is this black cat jumps into his fucking mouth. And we get this scene of the cat climbing into Halston's mouth, like forcing its way in.
It's forcing its way in. Like it's a little bit of a time, and it's a really, of course, it's Romero, it's fucking it's Tom Savini. Mm-hmm. Like, this was specifically designed to be the show-off moment of this entire film, as you see this cat one piece at a time forcing its way down his throat until he suffocates and dies, and he just falls over with his mouth all agape like he's a fucking snake as this cat climbs into his like abdominal cavity and hides.
And I gotta disagree. I do not think that is the show-off moment of the movie. Maybe the show-off moment of the segment for sure. Definitely not the show-off moment.
Yeah.
But
sure,
yeah. So it hibernates like in his guts, and we cut to daytime.
It's been 12 hours. Drogon has come back home. He opens up the door, wheels it, and the cat killed this dude right in like the front hall. So as soon as he wheels in, Drogon sees it, William Hickey's character, and he's just like, Oh, shit.
And at that moment, the clock starts back up. Like,
Well,
out of nowhere.
It starts back up, but the funny part about it is that the clock, when he shot at the cat, it was midnight and it was about to go off.
Yep.
So he shoots it and nothing happens because he breaks the clock. But when the clock magically starts back up, the first thing it attempts to do is to ring the bell, and all it does is shoot out like a little fucking spring.
Yeah. And then the cat climbs its way out of Halston and jumps in William Hickey's lap, like jumps in Drogon's lap. And Drogon can't get his pills and has a heart attack as this cat just sits in his lap and cleans the blood off itself.
Now, this is my second favorite part of the entire film, as he spills all of the pills on the floor, and I'm watching, and I'm like, those are fucking Tic Tacs. Like, they literally just took a fucking box of Tic Tacs and put them in a pill bottle. That's how they did that. And Drogon has a heart attack and dies, and the cat is just like, fuck yeah.
And this, in my opinion, was not the best part of the film.
That was the second best part of the film, for sure.
With all of that being said, I think now would be a great word from our sponsors.
Hello there, it's me, Skunk. Turns out we don't actually have any advertisers yet. However, if you would like to advertise with us, we would love to bring your product to the Scrub masses. Just email us at scrubads@gmail.com and we can put your advertisement on the air. That's Scrubads, all one word, SCRUBADS, @gmail.com to advertise on the Scrubcast.
And we're back.
So now I suppose we should start talking about the wraparound. It's there.
The wraparound.
The wrap-around. Ooh, woo.
So yeah, Timmy has just finished telling the Cat from Hell story, and Debbie Harry is like, "Oh, that's a great story and all, but I like love stories." Which is strange because she has a book full of like stories of people being murdered.
Yeah,
Right?
like called Tales from the Darkside.
But she specifically mentions she likes love stories, and he's like, "Oh, there's a love story in this book," and he's trying to find it, and she's like, "Hey, time's up! Like, come on, hurry this up. I gotta get you in the oven and cook you, you know." And at this point, she's like getting her oven ready, which it looks like a regular oven on the outside, but when she opens it up, it's obviously like a cremation tunnel.
like a crematory.
Where you cremate a body.
Yeah, so he was just but there is a love story in this book.
He's talking about how he's talking about this love story in this book and how great this love story is, and would you let me read it to you? And she's just like, fine, but make it quick.
And then we get into my favorite part of the entire movie, Lover's Vow. So this one is actually, and I ended up reading up on it, and it makes sense that I like it so much because it's based off of a yokai tale. For those who don't know, yokai is Japanese folklore monsters, and you get some neat shit out of yokai tales, to be completely honest with you. I recommend them. But anyway, this one is also written by Michael McDowell, and it's based on Yuki Onna, which, like I said, is a yokai tale. And it stars, an absolutely wonderful and underrated actor, James Remar, or Remmer, however you want to say it.
I think it's Remar.
It's fucking Ajax from the Warriors.
Oh, he's a lot of things. He was Richard in Sex and the City. He was Ajax in the Warriors, and Albert Gantz in 48 Hours, which was another Walter Hill film. Mm-hmm. He played Dutch Schultz in The Cotton Club, Jack Duff in Miracle on 34th Street, Harry Morgan in Dexter. But for all of us here at Scrubhaus, he will always be known as not Raiden.
Second Raiden, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's are some hella shoes to fill, right? Like
Discount Christopher Lambert.
Yeah, like Christopher Lambert, he quit. Like who are we gonna get to play him? I know, the guy who played Ajax in The Warriors.
There was this guy that was in this film called Quiet Cool who looked like he could do some kung fu shit. Let's just get him. I mean, his list of credits is of just like shit films that he's been in. It's great because he was also in The Phantom. He was in Robo Warriors. He was in the Psycho remake. He was in Drugstore Cowboy, Boys on the Side, Rites of Passage, Hellraiser Inferno, Too Fast, Too Furious, Blade Trinity. Like, it just goes downhill from there.
Yeah, like
he also had a cameo in Pineapple Express.
yeah, he's done a bunch of cameos for sure. But whenever it comes down to it, he is very, very good in this role. He plays an artist named Preston, and Preston isn't a very profitable artist.
He's kind of a doucher.
He is waiting on a call from his agent, and he gets the call, and it's to go down to a bar. I don't remember the name of the bar, but
it's not important.
He
goes to a bar in the shitty neighborhood that he lives in.
And he ends up getting dumped by his agent, essentially. So he decides to stay there and get drunk as shit because he's friends with the bartender, right? So he gets really drunk, and the bartender's like, hey, I'm going to close up. So they step out back, they're talking. The bartender needs to take a piss for whatever reason. He waits until he goes outside to do so, even though they were just in a bar, which had a bathroom. That always caught me off guard. I don't know what it is about the whole idea of pissing outside in New York. Like go hand in hand, but it happens a lot in movies that feature New York. And the bartender, he goes outside and he takes a piss, and all of a sudden this gargoyle-like monster just fucking swipes his head off with claws. This beautifully designed giant gargoyle monster. Very wonderful creature effects.
I want to point out real quick that during the bar scene was when I realized that it was James Remar in this role, because he looks like Ajax, but he sounds like Raiden.
It's like right between the two, so it makes sense for him. But yeah, it ends up being a very, very incredible scene. And Preston turns around and he goes, "Oh God, don't kill me," is the words that come out of his mouth. And then the gargoyle thing speaks and says, "I'll spare your life as long as you promise that you will never tell anyone what you have seen here or that I exist." And his response is, "I promise." And then the gargoyle says, "Cross your heart," and slashes him across the chest, leaving scars.
Yeah. He specifically, the gargoyle specifically says, "Do not describe me to anyone."
Yeah, in this very like low gravelly voice, like kind of, actually, I wouldn't even say gravelly. I would say more like wispy, kind of like, "Do not describe me to anyone," kind of thing, almost like a ghost. And it's really well done. It's like animatronic and everything. And then it spreads its huge ass fucking wings and just flies the fuck away. And Preston stumbles out of there. And
he is running down the street like a fucking lunatic.
Bloody shirt.
He's hiding behind like fucking dumpsters and shit, and just being just acting weird on his way home. When he runs into this woman, and he grabs her and slams her up against, this is the great introduction that he has, slams her up against the wall, it covers her mouth, and it's like, don't talk, I'm not going to hurt you, don't talk, shut up, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to rape you, I'm not going to do anything, it's very dangerous, why are you down here? And it's so weird, like the way that he does that. And she's, of course, like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? But then she's into it. She's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go back to your place and fucking hang out. Apparently she's trying to get a taxi cab. And he's like, taxi cabs don't run around here. It's a bad neighborhood. Come back to my place, you can call a taxi.
And they get up. I wanna bring up that she is played by Radon Chong, actually.
Yeah, Tommy Chong's daughter.
And her name is Carola. And every time he said her name, I couldn't help but say Toyota. Because her name is fucking Corolla.
Yeah, it's Carola. It's definitely Corolla. Like, if you pronounce it a certain way, it's Corolla. So she's named after a car. You know, it's like having a daughter and you name her like Mercedes, except, you know, more low rent. So it's kind of racist.
Hey, it might be a little more low rent, but it's also way, way, way more reliable. So
I don't know about that. My family has owned 2 Mercedes that have never broken down. Meanwhile, I know people with Toyotas that break down every week.
Yeah, but it costs like $15 and a fucking stick of gum to fix a Toyota Corolla.
This is true. So they go back to his place and try to call for a cab. They're not answering. He's like, oh, it's too late. They must be closed. Why don't you try in the morning? And then she's just all like, oh, you're an artist. He's like, yeah. And she's like, I've never met an artist before. And he's like, yeah, we should fuck.
And they did.
That's pretty much how that scene goes. They just basically get right down to fucking. And the next morning, she's just all like, hey, we should do some more of that fucking we did last night. And he's like, yeah, that's a really great idea.
Except...
And then he remembers that his best friend got murdered the night before. And he's just like, I gotta go.
I gotta take care of some things. You can stay here if you want, is what he said. I'll be back in a little bit.
Yeah. So he leaves. He goes, you know, talking to people, trying to figure out what happened, like what people know. You know, he's got to talk to the cops and all that shit. Eventually, he comes back to the apartment. She's still there. He's like, hey, I like you. I missed you. We should hang out some more. And she's like, oh, well, I have a friend of mine who owns a gallery downtown. And it turns out that owns the hottest gallery in town.
Yeah, but she didn't know that, right? Like she just brings up her name.
Yeah. Like, it just turns out to be a coincidence that she knows this person.
She's never met an artist before, but she knows the person who owns the hottest gallery in town.
Yeah. Given what we know later of the film, also, this doesn't make any fucking sense. The fuck does she know this person?
Yeah, so, okay, like, we'll get into that whenever we get to the end of this, because it's actually a pretty good story. But
this is the one plot thread that doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it could be mystical.
I guess. So he's just like, wow, you know this person. She owns the hottest gallery in town. She's like, yeah, I told her about your stuff, and she would like you to do, to put your art in the gallery. So the art goes into the gallery, and it's selling like crazy. One person buys one of his paintings for $23,000, and Corolla is dressed to the nines. Like, she's got this awesome dress on. Everybody there is dressed like they're make $1 million. He's wearing a bomber jacket with patches all over it, like he's some kind of like middle-aged punk.
Yeah. I dig it. Like,
the other guy that was at the bar that night, he shows up.
Jer. His name was Jer. I remember because I was like, are they calling him Chair? Like Chair, but then I looked it up later. His name was Jer, Jer.
Thanks for blocking my way, sure. That's a line from something you haven't seen.
All right.
The shitty fucking YouTube video. Anyway. Couponbug.com. That's gonna be stuck in my head the rest of the night.
You're welcome.
So he shows up, he's drunk, and he's just all like, yeah, seems like you're doing really good for yourself. Hey, remember our friend that died? And Preston, in a moment of absolute just brilliance, it's just all like, I wasn't the last person who saw him alive. Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, like that was his response. Like it wasn't brought up at all.
It's like, what are you implying? That had anything to do with his death? Get the fuck away from me, right? And it's just like, the guy is just standing there.
Jared's like, it decapitated our friend.
It's like, I had nothing to do with this.
And it's like, I don't know. It's just weird to hear somebody use the term decapitated in that statement. Like, you feel that if somebody was drunk, you'd be like, he knocked his damn head off. But he was just like, it decapitated our friend. And it stood out. It was weird. It was very weird. But yeah, anyway.
Also, just because I wanted to get this guy's name, I looked it up, by the way, and you're wrong. The bartender was Jer.
Is that who they were saying? Okay, so whenever they're talking about the bartender, that's the guy who I was just like, are they saying his name was Chair? Okay.
Maddox is the drunk.
Oh, God.
And this guy is Philip Lewinsky. He looks like... There's no other way of putting it, of how this guy looks, right? He looks like a young Harry Dean Stanton.
All right.
Like, there's pictures of him where he was in films and TV shows recently where he looks exactly like Harry Dean Stanton. Like, I'm like sitting here looking at him like, holy shit, this guy looks like Harry Dean Stanton. But before that, it just looks like young Harry Dean Stanton. And he has these, like, he's got, like, the bags under his eyes and everything. And they look like they're about to pop out of his head any second now. Like, that's the way this dude looks in every movie he's ever been in. So,
the whole time that, like, Preston is doing this, he's also secretly drawing pictures of the monster. Very good pictures. And apparently... creating amazing sculptures of the thing. But he's not letting anybody see it. He's locking it away.
He's doing it to try to cope with the situation. He draws them, but then he immediately hides them. He doesn't even want Carola to see him.
Toyota.
So
was it after the gallery is when she was like...
Well, they do the gallery and they head back and they were all like, hey, this was a really great night. And she was like, yeah, it's a good time.
I'm pregnant.
Then, well, it cuts to like later and he's just all like, hey, I got another gallery opening thing coming up. And she's just all like, yeah, hey, what are we going to do about our kid? And he's like, wait. Your kid, you're pregnant? She's like, yeah. And he's like, well, are we going to make this bastard legitimate or what?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a very good way to, yeah.
It's the most awkward way. And he's just like, let me rephrase that. Will you marry me? It was done awkward on purpose.
Yeah.
It's a great moment.
It's James Remar just being good. I don't know. The entire time...
We're going to make this bastard legitimate or what?
Yeah. Thank you. Second Raiden.
So they get married. Or they don't even get married at this point.
We don't see
He's just like... Yeah. He picks her up and they go to the bedroom. She's like, ow, be careful, I'm pregnant.
And then he bangs her brains out. Because he has some kind of pregnancy fetish. or something. It was weird. I specifically said,
Yeah.
because she's pregnant, you're horny. That's weird.
Yeah,
That's
it is weird.
fucking bizarre.
I thought the same thing. And then it cuts to 10 years later, and apparently he fucked her so hard, she got pregnant twice. Because they've got 2 kids now.
And they come in and they're dressed like pirates, right?
We find out it's Halloween.
And they're dressed like pirates, and they come in with the agent that we've seen bump him at the beginning of the film. And there's a little bit of exposition where the agent is just like, I had to fight every agent in New York to get him back. And then
he had to murder 3 people. Is this a quote? He said, I had to murder 3 other agents just to make you happy.
And then Corolla was just like, and you're lucky, and she was like, yeah, because of me. And then James Remar comes in wearing an eye patch. and immediately he says something along the lines of, you're lucky she let you, or whatever like that. But no, our brains, and I do believe it was like this collective thing where me and Skunk both just look at James Remar and we're just like, alternate universe where James Remar played Nick Fury instead of David Hasselhoff. And that is like the one note that I took about this skit. Nothing else. Just the idea of James Remar playing Nick Fury in the 90s instead of David Hasselhoff. It should have happened, and it didn't. And I'm pissed off that we do not live in that timeline.
I mean, here's the thing with that too. Like, that might have it, not even then, but like in the future, like instead of Samuel L. Jackson, just have James Remar playing Nick Fury, right?
Here's what I want. If we have any kind of video feed for this podcast, at some point during this discussion, we need that picture of James Remar in an eye patch just somewhere. Like if we're doing the Equalizer thing, if we're doing whatever, if we're just posting it on a damn SoundCloud, I want the thumbnail to be a picture of James Remar in that eye patch.
I don't know about that, but okay.
He looks amazing. James
He
Remar
does.
is a man who he can wear an eye patch for accessory reasons and just look baller doing it. So anyway, the kids go off and play sword fight, and the agent goes to leave. It takes them a very long time to do so. I'm supposing they're really high up because they go into the room and it's just Toyota and Preston in the room together. And he's like, why don't we move to the city, or out of the city into the country? And she said, you'd be miserable. And he would be, and so would the kids. And he would responded with, but you would be happy, and I'm doing it all for you. And she's like, but you've already given me everything. And his response is the most dumb-ass thing you could ever do in your entire life. He went, not everything. And then tells her about the gargoyle monster.
Here's my thing with this too. It's not even that he's telling her about the monster. It's the way he's going about doing it. He's like, I'm telling you this because I haven't given you everything. And it's like, but that's not what she meant.
Yeah,
she
at all.
She's like, she doesn't need to know about your stupid traumatic past. She doesn't give a shit about that. Like, let it go. Like make like Elsa and let it go.
So he pulls out the drawings, which I understand because we see the drawings. We never ever see him sculpt the sculpture that he pulls out, and he pulls out a fucking perfect, accurate recreation of the gargoyle creature in like I would say like a 6-inch sculpture.
Yeah, I swear that this was just like Savini made the sculpture and he was just like, I want to do something else with it though besides this. And that John Harrison was just like, fuck it, we'll put it in the movie.
Yeah, pretty much. But so he pulls out the sculpture, and then she just says, "Why? Why are you telling me this?" And his response is, "Because I never told you about what happened the night we met." And then she starts screeching at him, like, "You promised you'd never tell."
Well,
Like,
first she walks away crying.
Yeah.
And he's like, "I'm not fucking lying. I'm not making this up. Why would you think that?" That's what she turns around and is like, "You promised you'd never tell."
and then he's like, "What?" And then she transforms in like the most brutal transformation sequence. Like, you see the arms just rip the hell open, and the gargoyle arms come out, and then the wings just rip out of the back, and then she like ducks her head down and rips her scalp open. And
If you thought Debbie becoming a cockroach in Nightmare on Elm Street 4 was visceral, you haven't seen shit. This is like that times 1,000.
This was the scene in the movie where Savini was showing the fuck off. Like, this is the scene where Savini went, "I'm throwing it all at the wall, boys," and gave us one of the best. Like, this transformation sequence rivals the transformation sequence in An American Werewolf in London. And that is such a crazy damn thing to say, because this movie is so forgotten, is so slept on. And that alone, in this situation, just makes this so brutally amazing. So she turns into the creature, and he's like, "What? But what about our kids?" And then turns around, and there are standing two little gargoyle human hybrid things, and they look more like gargoyles. And I said they didn't look any human, but Skunk pointed out they have rounder heads. So
yeah, their heads are round and her head is all pointy, so they're kind of like half human. They still look more like gargoyles than anything else. It's not like there's some kind of weird hybrid between the two where they're like no scales on them or something.
And she like, he was like, "I'm sorry," and she was like, "I'm sorry too, but you broke your vow." And then she murders him.
She eats his fucking neck.
And she tells him that she loved him still. Eats his neck, gathers the children, and then they burst out of the window. And you see the
Wyatt
agent just look up, like, "What the fuck is that?" And then we see them land on a ledge.
Well, hold up. Before that moment, though, when they make that noise, right? Wyatt just looks up and he's like, "What the fuck was that?" And the cabbie's like, "I don't want to know. Get in."
Yeah. and so they land on a ledge, and then the sun comes up, and they turn to stone. And I'm just thinking, is this where the idea from Gargoyles came from? Or is
Gargoyles 2. Or not gargoyles.
Like I'm talking about like the Disney's gargoyle things.
2.
Yeah, well,
oh, fuck! I haven't seen that in forever.
Yeah, like I don't know.
I was thinking about Gremlins too.
I don't know if there's some like lore about the gargoyles turning into things at night and then back into. I don't keep up with that type of folklore. But it was very like, I just thought of Keith David's voice just booming in my brain because he did the voice of Goliath. And yeah, it'll always be there. Anytime I think of a gargoyle, I'll either think of this movie or I'll think of Keith David, or I'll think of Gremlins 2. Like, those are like the three things. But yeah, so it ends. And then we get to the last part of the wraparound story. And I will say, Lover's Vow is the best. Absolute the best part for me in Tales from the Dark Side of the movie.
I think that the best segment is Cat from Hell. I think the best scene is Corolla transforming by far.
I think the Corolla transformation just it dwarfs everything in this movie. And I mean, here's the thing about Lover's Vow. Even when you hadn't seen Tales from the Dark Side, the movie, Like whenever
Mhm.
you watch this, like the way that she shows up after this, you go, oh, that's the gargoyle thing. Like you already know. And they lead you
Yeah.
on just enough that like you kind of, it's in the back of your mind. You're not really thinking about it. But then whenever she screeches, you still go, holy fuck. But then your brain goes, wow, he's an idiot. And you start piecing things together in a way that like you had kind of switched your brain off for a second and then you turn it back on,
Mhm.
which is a very good feeling, just enough of a lead on so that everything can just soak in for a second and you're like, wow, he's an idiot. All right.
I would say this though. The fact that she is the gargoyle at the very end of the movie does make that scene earlier not make any sense that we were talking about.
Okay.
And that takes me out of it.
Here's the thing though. She's mystical, right? So the whole idea behind the gargoyle is they'll make all of your dreams come true. It's kind of like a wish kind of thing. So she used some kind of fucking gargoyle magic to like find the hottest fucking the owner of the hottest gallery in the fucking in New York City and magicked this bitch to be her friend of a friend. Like,
I guess.
like it's weird. But I mean that's what happened. It's all fucking spooky gargoyle magic.
Yep. So then we get the end of the wraparound story.
Oh boy.
So
yeah.
Betty, the witch, is just all like, "Oh, you really did save the best story for last." And then her timer goes. She has an egg timer, and it goes off. And she's like, "Well, time for you to get in the oven." He's like, "No, I saved the best one for last because it has a happy ending." And she stops and looks at him and goes, "None of the stories in that book have a happy ending." And he's like, "No, it really does. Like, it's the best story. See, I'm going to read it to you right now." She's like, "No, it's too late. Like, it's the timer went off. Like, the oven's preheated. Like, you're getting in there." Right. But as she advances on him, he starts to narrate his own actions.
Yeah. So he's like, first, there was this boy who was locked in the cage by this evil witch. and one day she went to try to eat him and he threw some marbles on the floor.
Yeah, the whole entire time she's just like incredulous to this entire event too. She's just like, "What the hell are you talking about?" And he's like, and then he pulled some marbles out and she didn't notice. And then she slipped on him and she's like, "What?" And then she slips and she falls backwards onto some cooking utensils and gets a bunch of spikes in her back. It's just like, what the
like a block. It's like a block of wood on a cart thing.
With like skewers sticking out.
So like she lands on it and then it rolls backwards and then she gets up and the skewers don't stay in the block. They stay in her back. And she's like all reaching back trying to pull them out, but she can't reach them.
And he's just all like, if only he could reach the keys to escape. And he reaches over and grabs the keys and he just unlocks the padlock to get out. And then he's like, and then he pushes her into the oven and she falls back. Keep in mind, she still has the skewers in her back. So how the fuck did this work? She falls backwards into the oven and the oven starts to close itself up. He helps a little bit, but it's very obviously.
And she has to like kind of fold her legs in a little bit so that it would close. Weird. Like she had to help as well, which doesn't seem like it would make sense. Yeah.
So it's sort of like Timmy's altering reality, apparently.
Yeah.
And so then he closes up the oven and she burns to death and she's all freaking out, burning in the oven and shit. He goes over and takes down the fucking bag of Chips Ahoy and pulls a cookie out and turns to the camera and goes, "Don't you just love happy endings?" And then bites into the cookie. Credits.
So yeah, that was pretty much Tales from the Dark Side of the movie. It
was from beginning to end. Yeah, we covered everything.
And I feel very, very solid, very underrated anthology film. If you had to give it a rating, what would you give it?
I mean, what is our rating scale going to be for this?
I don't know. This is the new format. Let's set the rating scale now.
Okay. Well, come on. You come up with something.
All right.
Out of 5, are we giving it a grade? Are we giving it a nonsensical?
We're gonna give it. You know what? at Scrubhaus, we have somebody that we admire, and that's Neil Breen. And I'll say we'll call our rating scales Breens, and we'll do it out of 10. So out of 10 Breens, what do you give?
Well, if we're comparing it to Neil Breen,
We're not. He's just a figurehead. He's just a figurehead.
I was gonna say it's gonna be one Breen out of a million, because nothing could possibly compare to the. God, I don't fucking get the Neil Breen thing. I really don't.
Okay,
But
would you rather do Zadar's? Robert Zadar? How about this? We can do William Smith's for all I care. Like, what do you want? What do you want to make it?
I just want a number system or a letter system or something. We don't have to call it.
Okay,
we don't have to call it the Breens.
Okay, so we can do.
If we're doing it out of 10, let's just do it out of 10.
Let's do a letter system then. We can do school style: A, B, C, D, and F.
Okay.
And we can do
All right.
pluses or minuses depending on how we feel about the film.
Well, I personally give this a B plus.
Okay.
It wasn't. It's a good enough movie, but it's not top tier. It's not all the way up there. It's close.
Right.
If it had been Creepshow 3 with Romero directing and given the Creepshow feel to it, all the stories were more Creepshow, it would have been great.
Sure.
But as it stands, it's just merely okay.
I think I would give it a B plus as well. I feel as though I do feel that it is slept on. It is absolutely worth a watch. It is one of the least talked about anthology films, next to John Carpenter's Body Bags, I guess, is the only other one I can think of that like sits at the status that this one sits at. I feel like Creepshow gets talked about more than this does. Twilight Zone the movie gets talked about more than this does. Fucking Tales from the Hood gets talked about more than Tales from the Dark Side. And because of that, like, I figured it was
Tales from the Hood is the shit.
I figured we would give it its time in the spotlight. I happen to like it. And I say, if you haven't watched it already, which you might not have, we didn't put this out ahead of time, so you had no way of knowing, definitely go and watch it. You know the story beat for beat, so it's not going to be as fun for you as if it was your first watching. Sorry. And I think...
Or maybe you listened to the beginning of this and found out we were going to be talking about Tales from the Dark Side and went, oh, I haven't seen that movie. I need to go watch it right now.
Yeah, and in the future, we're going to be laying down what we're watching next month for the next month's podcast. So I figured we should go ahead and do that now. So
speaking of which,
I told you what I wanted it to be. I don't know if you agree with me. And in that situation, I'll let you choose. But if it's what I said, then I'll be really happy.
Fuck, man, I don't even remember what we chose.
All right. So in that situation,
what were you talking about?
I was talking
before?
about Gus.
Gus?
I was talking about Clancy Brown.
Oh, Pet Sematary 2.
I'm talking about Pet Sematary 2, bud.
I'm fine with Pet Sematary 2.
All right.
Because it's a movie I don't even need to watch again.
I'm going to, though. I'm going to. That's the thing, is I feel like you should. Because this is a video club. So it is. But think of it like a book club. Think of it like a book club.
So many times.
But you don't have to read an entire book. You just have to dedicate 2 hours of your life in the span of a month. A month! To watch this film.
Not even 2 hours. I guarantee you that Pet Sematary 2 is not 2 fucking hours long.
Well, yeah, 2 hours is like a max case because we're not going to be watching too many 2.5, 3 hour movies. I just throw 2 hours out there because the movie length. But
average movie length.
Yeah, whatever it comes down to it, I'd say watch it again. It's going to be worth it. And tune in.
It's a good film. Yeah, tune in next time.
And which we'll be talking about Pet Sematary 2. I hope you had some fun. My name is Audrey.
My name is Skunk.
And this has been Scrubcast.
Bye.